Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. Our roommate every night slept in the arms of the wealthiest young master, but refused to spend his money. She claimed she loved him for who he was, not his wealth or material possessions. She lived frugally, borrowing everything from us, from internet access to even sanitary pads. She even asked us for money to buy clothes, cosmetics, and to cover her tuition fees. As graduation approached, we suggested she pay us back in installments, but she accused us of oppressing her. She cried and went to work as a hostess at a nightclub, where she unfortunately had a miscarriage. The young master, seeking revenge for her, forced us to work at the nightclub, where we were assaulted one by one. He shouted, "You harmed my woman, killed my child. You should be grateful that Lily is so kind. If it weren't for her pleading, you wouldn't even know how you'd die." When we opened our eyes again, we found ourselves back in our hometown. Lily borrowed money from her father, who was bedridden, while her mother worked as a cleaner. She also had a younger brother, who kept breaking up with girlfriends because of the high cost of wedding gifts. She couldn't bear to burden her parents with her tuition fees. "Can you guys help me a little?" Lily sobbed like a delicate flower in the rain. Anyone who saw her delicate, exquisite face would feel pity. We, her roommates, exchanged suspicious glances, only realizing later that we had been reborn. Lily's voice echoed in our ears. "The X family is rich, but I love him for who he is, not his wealth. His fiancée keeps calling me a gold digger. I don't want to be looked down upon. I absolutely won't borrow money from Ethan. Can you lend me some? I'll work part-time to pay you back immediately." She spoke through tears, but in our hearts, there was only bitterness. In our past life, we had lent her all our money, leaving us with nothing to live on. We asked her to pay us back in small installments, but she acted as if she were the victim, crying about being wronged. That night, she went to work at a nightclub as a hostess. We were worried she'd be taken advantage of in such a place, so we deliberately contacted Ethan, hoping he'd keep an eye on her in case something went wrong. But with her resilient and unyielding nature, she won Ethan's heart. Meanwhile, we were blamed for indirectly causing her miscarriage, leading to the destruction of our families. In this life, no one pitied her anymore, no one cared about her safety, and no one called Ethan to ensure she escaped the chaos of the nightclub. The next morning, the latest news about Lily spread. She had miscarried. While that wasn't surprising, the fact that she had been mutilated and had acid poured down her throat, causing permanent damage, was completely unexpected. When asked what had happened, the class monitor recounted that Lily had no money to pay her tuition, so she went to work at the nightclub to earn extra cash. We thought she was joking. Everyone knew the father of her child was the most famous young master in New York's upper class. Money wasn't an issue for him. Who would have thought she'd actually go to work there? She knew she was pregnant, but still drank with customers. She must have gotten drunk and lost control. Many people took advantage of her. When she woke up, she realized she'd been drugged and immediately called Ethan for help. But before she could connect the call, the thugs heard Ethan's name and grabbed her. At first, they tried to settle things with money, but Lily didn't care about money. They offered $10 million, but she refused, insisting on taking the case to court. The thugs, knowing how ruthless Ethan could be, grew frustrated with her, screaming, and eventually attacked her. They beat her until she was paralyzed. Not wanting to commit murder or go to jail, they cut off her limbs and poured acid down her throat, leaving her unable to speak or write. Now she's in the hospital. Do you want to visit her? Ethan is there too. He said he'd find the person behind this. He even called me privately, asking me to bring you all along. Hearing this, the three of us felt uneasy. Ethan, a powerful young master, surely knew Lily was working at the nightclub because she had no money in our past life. He stubbornly believed we were the masterminds behind her miscarriage. This time, he asked the class monitor to bring us to the hospital. Clearly, he had no good intentions. Tracy frowned. That bastard isn't planning to pin Lily's misfortune on us again, is he? Tina also looked serious. Probably he's up to no good. I clenched my fists and immediately told the class monitor, "You go ahead, we'll catch up later." After the class monitor left, Tracy worried. Even if we don't go, we won't escape Ethan's pursuit. Tina agreed, you're right. What should we do now? I held their hands, calming them. Don't worry. Lily can't speak or write. Everything depends on how we cooperate. Let's go to the teacher's office first, then to the hospital. By the time we arrived at the hospital, the class monitor was already there, holding fresh flowers and fruits. The three of us came empty-handed, feeling a bit awkward. Lily was wrapped in bandages, lying motionless on the bed, only her eyes visible. She looked pitiful and innocent. Ethan sat by her bedside, his eyes red with sorrow. Seeing us, Lily's eyes no longer held gentleness, but pure anger. Ethan spoke first. Did you know Lily went to the nightclub last night? The class monitor sighed and shook his head. The three of us also sighed in unison. We thought she had gone to your place. She's pregnant, and we assumed she was preparing for her wedding. We didn't think much of it. The school was pressuring her to pay her tuition, but there's a student loan program. We don't understand why she didn't apply for it, and instead went to work at a nightclub. What a pity, Tracy said. Ethan took a deep breath, his face filled with pain. The student loan program is funded by the X Corporation. She didn't want to use my money. She's always been like this. She'd rather push herself to the brink than accept my kindness. She wanted to prove that she loves me for who I am, not my wealth. How could she be so naive and kind? Well, the mindset of a patriarchal culture is indeed something ordinary people can't comprehend. It wasn't a waste of effort for us to carefully choose our words and calculate our responses. Tina calmly said no wonder she was so anxious to earn money for her tuition. She didn't want to owe the X Corporation. After all, the school is funded by the X family, right? Hearing this, Ethan closed his eyes, tears streaming down his face. His ill-struck demeanor was truly something to behold. Lily also cried, though it was unclear whether she was moved by her own actions or her noble disdain for money. Finally, Ethan acknowledged her. How about this, Sai? Have you paid Lily's medical bills? But she probably doesn't want to accept it. Look, she's crying. She must be angry with you, right? Angry that you're spending money on her again. Lily froze, her eyes wide, tears streaming down her face. The three of us continued to chime in. See, Ryan, I think you should stop paying her medical bills. Otherwise, she'll resent you for life. The person she least wants to owe is you. Lily, horrified, shook her head. We continued to explain on her behalf. See, Oyen, look, Lily is shaking her head. She doesn't need money for her medical bills. Lily, tell us, do you want to go home? Lily, momentarily unable to react, could only shake her head vigorously. We seized the opportunity to add, see, Ryan, Lily is shaking her head again. It seems she doesn't want to stay in the hospital, she wants to go home. Even though her father is bedridden, her mother is a cleaner, and her younger brother is arguing with his girlfriend over wedding gifts. Lily has always been a good girl. She's never hated her family. She's always used her noble qualities to inspire those around her. Even in the most desperate situations, she's never asked you for money. She's never been greedy for money. See, Orion, I think you should stop making things harder for her. Lily, startled, quickly nodded, wanting to deny what we were saying. We pointed at her nodding figure and said, look, see, Orion, Lily agrees with what we're saying. Ethan pursed his lips, his face dark and handsome, filled with endurance. Is it only when I become penniless that you'll accept my kindness? At this point, Lily didn't know whether to nod or shake her head. Her eyes, filled with hatred, glared at us. We sighed. We've always advised Lily not to reject your kindness or your money. But she always said she didn't want to be looked down upon. She said your money wasn't earned by you, but was the wealth of the X Corporation. She also said that if you worked hard and earned money yourself, she'd be willing to accept it. Ethan's eyes turned red. Then I'll give up my inheritance from the X Corporation. I'll work hard and earn money myself to pay for your medical bills, okay? Lily, I believe you're not greedy for money. I truly believe it. I love you, Lily. Lily, perhaps out of words, could only stare for a long time without any other reaction. The class monitor stood to the side, dumbfounded, unable to understand what we were up to. In the end, under our series of tricks, Ethan and Lily embraced passionately. Ethan said he didn't care about her miscarriage or the humiliation she suffered. He was determined to live an ordinary life with her. Eventually, They would live in a humble cottage, two hearts as one, happy for the rest of their lives. The three of us, and the class monitor, sincerely wished them well. Only Lily, unable to speak or move, was in agony from Ethan's forceful embrace. Her face twisted in pain as we led the class monitor out of the hospital room. We ran into Ethan's younger brother, Ryan, and many members of the X family waiting outside. They frowned, their eyes filled with disgust and disappointment. Ethan's earlier behavior had clearly caught their attention, confirming that he was a lovesick fool who couldn't possibly take over the X corporation. Ryan, Ethan's younger brother, spoke in a harsh voice. "If my brother doesn't want to take over the family business, then I think Mom and Dad shouldn't force him anymore." The elder Ethan family members sighed deeply. "From now on, the X corporation will be handed over to you. Let your brother, and that girl who treats money like dirt, live happily ever after." With that, they left. At this point, Ryan turned his sharp gaze toward us. It was thanks to us that he had convinced the teacher to connect him with his parents, bringing them to witness this excellent performance. Though Ryan looked strikingly similar to Ethan, he exuded a much more dangerous aura. We didn't dare speak, taking 2 steps back. Ryan smirked. "You three have done me a great favor. It's only right that I repay you." We quickly waved our hands. No need, no need. We just wanted to avoid getting involved with Lily. Now that our goal has been achieved, it's a win-win situation. We're no longer under threat, and you've successfully taken over the exam's inheritance. We're from 2 different worlds, it's best to keep our distance. But Ryan said, "The teacher sent me your graduation designs. I found them very creative. Would you like to come work for the X Corporation?" We were surprised. Ryan added, "Don't worry, I'm different from my brother. I'd never abandon talent for any woman. Don't rush to refuse, talk to your teacher first, then give me your answer." After Ryan left, we were called back to school by our teacher to discuss our graduation project. He said this design has caught the attention of the X Corporation. They want to use it as the main direction for their next quarter. As for salary, each of you will receive $1 million in the first year. If you feel it's not enough later, they're willing to negotiate further. You'll be in charge of this project. The corporation will only invest. All decision-making, power lies with you. Don't worry about Ryan. He's my former student and I trust his methods. Even if the project fails, you won't be burdened with any debt. The teacher gave us many reassurances and we felt at ease. There was really no reason to refuse, especially since, with our memories of our past life, we knew this project would be a huge success. If we didn't accept Ryan's offer and tried to find another investor, it would be much more difficult. So, under the teacher's supervision, we signed a cooperation contract with Ryan. After graduation, we established a small company under the X Corporation. At first, we had to be both bosses and employees. As the project expanded, the company gradually grew to over 50 employees. A year later, the project achieved significant results. Each of us had our own office, and the company moved closer to the X Corporation's headquarters. We poured all our resources and attention into the project, even completing it a year ahead of schedule, and launching it comprehensively before the company went public. One evening, we sat at a sidewalk stall near the company, eating grilled meat and drinking beer, reminiscing about the past. "Waiter, another case of beer and another round of skewers." The waiter brought the beer and asked if we needed anything else. Hearing the familiar voice, I frowned and looked over. To my surprise, it was Ethan. He had gained weight, his loose t-shirt hanging off him, looking disheveled with unshaven stubble and unkempt hair. He exuded an air of exhaustion. Tina and Tracy also noticed him, both shocked. "What's going on? Do you want to order more food?" It seemed Ethan didn't recognize us. His eyes were dull and lifeless. Tina was the first to react. "Give us 30 chicken feet and 30 chicken cartilage for now. We'll order more later." Ethan took the order and went to the kitchen. When the owner brought out the food, we couldn't help but ask, "What's the name of that waiter? He looks like an old friend of ours." The owner smiled kindly. "Oh, his name is Ethan. Should I call him over? Maybe he really is your friend." We quickly shook our heads, making up an excuse to inquire about Ethan's situation. The owner told us he used to be from a wealthy family, But he gave up his inheritance for his girlfriend. His family disowned him and he had no skills. At first he invested in a small restaurant, but he didn't know how to cook, so it closed within 2 months. Then he worked at a construction site but couldn't handle the hardship. After that, he worked as a waiter at a nightclub where the pay was good, but he was often harassed by wealthy older women. Not wanting his girlfriend to be jealous, he quit that job too. Tracy asked, "What's his girlfriend like?" The owner glanced at Ethan and whispered, "She's disabled, paralyzed, and can't speak. Her face is also disfigured, but he truly loves her. He even proposed to her." Her parents, knowing someone wanted to marry their daughter, demanded a dowry of $1 million. He honestly gave. I was surprised at the dowry of $1 million. Where did he get that kind of money? The owner clicked her tongue. That's the thing. He borrowed it all at high interest. Now his monthly salary is only enough to pay the interest. He's so poor he can't even afford a decent place to live. We felt sorry for him, so we set up a small shed near the restaurant for him. It's cold in winter, hot in summer, leaks when it rains and lets in the wind, but that's all we can do. A while later, we saw Ethan carrying a bowl of fried rice into the simple shed next to the restaurant. It seemed he and Lily lived there. After paying the bill, out of curiosity, we peeked inside the shed. At first, we admired Ethan's sincere love, but what we saw next made us rethink. Ethan was whipping Lily with a belt. She was stripped naked, lying on the dirty floor, reeking of feces and urine. Ethan lashed her with the belt, each strike causing her body to convulse. It was painful to watch, but Lily's vocal cords had been burned by the acid long ago, so she couldn't make a sound. All we heard was the whistling of the belt and Ethan's venomous words. "Are you satisfied with this life now? I'm using my own hands to earn money. Why are you so cheap? You wouldn't take my parents' money, insisting I leave my family, insisting I be like you and treat money like trash. I think you're the trash. You should live with this pile of filth. How do you eat fried rice? You're a curse. When I worked at the nightclub, you kept shaking your head and nodding, saying you'd die if I didn't marry you. I agreed to give your parents $1 million as a dowry, $1 million borrowed at high interest. Every month, I can only pay the interest of $5,000. Do you know my salary is only $5,000? I can't even pay off the principal. It's all because you treat money like dirt. It's all because of you. You've ruined me. Now I can't return to the X family. No wealthy older women are interested in me anymore. I'll be paying off this debt for the rest of my life. Haha. Now my only joy is beating and cursing you every day. From being my true love, you've become the person I hate the most. Haha. Lily lay face down on the floor, unable to scream or cry, only silently shedding tears. I wonder if she regretted her past words. I love you for who you are, not your wealth. In the end, this was Lily's life now. However, there was one thing we could never understand. Was it really just a group of thugs who poured sulfuric acid on Lily that night? Later, Tracy poured all her energy into work, completely ignoring the trivial matters of the past. Tina got married, had children, and gradually stepped back to focus on her family. The annual dividends from the company were enough for her family to live comfortably. As for me, I still loved researching and designing. While Tracy traveled everywhere for work and Tina spent time with her family, I continued my initial work, sketching, writing, and feeling the peace of the world. Many years later, I was still single. During a vacation on a small southern island, I happened to see on the news that the thugs who had harmed Lily had been arrested. They confessed to many crimes they had committed over the years, including the brutal attack on Lily. When asked why they did it, one of them said, "Someone paid us to do it. She was already disabled, so we did it." As for who that person was, they didn't know, only that it was a man. My first guess was Ryan. After all, in our family, struggles, scheming, and plotting are common, but I couldn't be sure. Later, at a company celebration, the three of us reunited and chatted. All the top executives were present, and Ryan was still the center of attention, surrounded by everyone. Suddenly, a disheveled man in a loose t-shirt pushed a disabled woman with a disfigured face into the middle of the party. At a glance, we recognized them as Ethan and Lily. What were they doing here? As we were still in shock, Ethan threw Lily to the ground and began kicking her repeatedly. Each kick caused her body to convulse. Terrified, we retreated into the crowd to avoid getting involved. Then Ethan pulled out a gun and shouted Ryan's name, demanding he come forward and explain. Was it you who arranged for Lily to approach me? Did you teach her to pretend to disdain money to attract my attention? Ryan, come out and explain clearly. You made me fall into a love trap, willingly giving up my inheritance to the X corporation. You're so ruthless. I'm your older brother. You deliberately lent me money at high interest, deliberately let Lily's parents know we were getting married, deliberately bribed the restaurant owner to make me live in a storage shed. Come out. I'll kill you. I'll kill you. My life has been ruined by you. Ethan screamed, and the scene descended into chaos. Soon security arrived and subdued him. He was taken to the police station, charged with assault with a weapon, and sentenced to life in prison. As for Lily, she was sent to a welfare facility where she died a few days later. Through this incident, I realized that Ryan, though always polite and principled on the surface, was actually deeply cunning and ruthless. When I submitted my resignation, he merely smirked. Made enough money and already want to retire, huh? I calmly replied, yes, I've earned quite a bit. For the rest of my life, I want more freedom. Ryan's eyes deepened. I know what you're worried about doing business with someone like me. Everyone has to be cautious, but in the business world, scheming is normal. I did it to protect myself. I nodded, indicating I understood, and explained that my decision to resign was truly about seeking freedom, not because of him. Before I left, Ryan asked a cryptic question. Do you believe in reincarnation? I froze. He continued, from the moment you called me that day, I've considered you special, but perhaps it's just my wild imagination. You've probably never really paid attention to me, so you don't understand why. I became the person I am today. At the time, I didn't understand the deeper meaning behind his words. It wasn't until much later, during a sleepless night, that I suddenly remembered our past life. After Ethan secured the inheritance, thanks to the design Lily stole, Ryan was expelled from the family and died tragically in a street brawl. In that moment, I realized that Ryan had also been reincarnated just like us. But compared to us, his methods were far more ruthless, leaving no room for his opponents. I had once thought that Ethan's downfall was due to the combined efforts of us 3 roommates. Little did I know that the orange peel is thick, but there are always sharper nails. No matter how much we schemed, there was always someone out there who schemed more. Fortunately, heaven gave us a chance to start over. I would definitely cherish the present and enjoy the freedom I deserved.